everybody. Welcome back to the podcast Off The Underside. How we all doing? Got a very special guest tonight. We're really excited about this one. It's ex-Rangers, Hibernian and Kilmarnock player, Dean Shiels. How you getting on, pal?
Good, good. Thanks very much for having me on. Thank you.
No, mate, it's a pleasure to have you on. Big fan of your career. We've been watching the last few years what you've been up to in managerial stuff and that as well, mate. So looking to get a good chat with you, man. How have you been anyway? What's been happening?
I've been good. I've been good. I've been keeping busy in regards to how so at the moment I've had our academy, Shields Academy. Me and my dad's actually started it probably about 10 years ago now. So it's grown to a point where I'm extremely busy with that, which is a daily thing. So I'd be coaching quite regularly during the week or in the evenings or at the weekend. So I'm quite busy with that at the moment. So I am, to be honest.
Good, mate, good. But on this podcast, we like to go back to the very start when people, were growing up playing football. And what's your earliest memories of playing football?
It's probably in the garden with my dad and my mates, and I lived in an estate where I lived in a council estate where I was the corner house, so I had the biggest garden in the estate because we had the big L-shaped grass. So all the kids used to come to either my grass or the front bit of my house, and that's where we would all gather every day after school and just play for hours and hours. So I was fortunate enough to live in the housing estate. I'm raising two children now that's not in a housing estate, and they don't have the luxury that I had back then of going outside and just playing with your mates on the street. And as I said, there's a big topic on football at the minute about street football. I was definitely a street footballer growing up on the street with all my mates.
It's lost nowadays. It's either Wayne's want to play the Xbox or on their phones or anything like that. Is that as well? Plus, it's charging a fortune for football pitches as well, isn't it?
And you see all the signs now. There's no ball games, and there's different. It's just a different. I think there's a different culture now, a different environment, and as you said, kids have now got probably more options. Back then, we had a ball, and the ball that we played with, there might have been 16 people playing with one ball, and the ball probably not even half pumped up properly. And I think now kids are spoiled with opportunities and options, and kids nowadays you're dropping them off to hockey, and they're going from hockey to their next club, whether it be football or swimming, and it's just more controlled now, the sports, I would say.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. I remember that period where it started to change though, because when I was in primary school, like you'd be able to go out on any pitch and stuff like that, and nobody would bother you. You would just go and play with your pals and that. But see, as soon as I went to secondary school, that's when you were getting in there, you were getting on pitches and all that, and then people were coming off and chasing you. You know what I mean? And ever since then, man, it's went right downhill. I don't see any kids anymore playing football out in the street. It's horrible.
Yeah, I know, and I think that is a big topic in regards to academy football, the development, and when you look at youth football now, it's so controlled and it's so robotic in the way that kids have to know where to be at the exact time, be there, and I think the freedom of on the pitch, off the pitch, everything's just completely different. And as you said, kids are lifted and laid and told where to go at what time. And back then, it was just more of a different type of mentality of football.
After a wee while playing football, was it just schoolboys or was it like proper youth academies back then?
No, we had no academies. We had youth teams back then. I think I didn't start to under 11, to be honest, in a controlled environment. So my first age group was under. Obviously, you played at maybe primary school and that, but I remember the youth where I was located, where I was brought up. We didn't have a great deal of teams to choose from, so I would have had to travel an hour to Belfast to play for a team called Lisburn Youth, one of the best clubs in the country that produced loads and loads of players, loads of international players actually, Lisburn Youth. So I had to travel to play for my team, which was probably about an hour and 10 minutes to Lisburn, maybe from where I was located. So that was my first club. And then in the end, I joined a summer league, which was a team called Newton Youths in the summer. So I played in a summer league for one team and a winter league for another. So that was me on the ladder then from 11 right up to probably under 15s, I think.
The travel got a wee bit longer when you went to Arsenal as well.
Yeah.
How was it going to Arsenal, especially at that time when it was just after the Invincibles and stuff like that? I know it was maybe the youth level, but you must have had a feel for it.
Yeah, no, I was there when the Invincibles. I was there. It was unbelievable. I can't speak enough highly of the club, and I look at it probably as an education where I went there as a 16-year-old. I was from a really small village, so to go to the bright lights of London at 16, it was daunting at the start. It was tough. I was homesick. I was put in digs with 2 or 3 other Irish lads who were really good company, but I did struggle the first 6 months, I think, which most people would. But as a club, there I can't speak highly enough of the coaching I got, the upbringing I got, and just the principles of how to act, how to behave on and off the pitch. It sort of from those early years at Arsenal, it really stood me in good stead throughout the rest of my my footballing career. To be honest, the education I got there was second to none, and I was really glad that I went to Arsenal.
And what about your dad at that point? How big an influence was he? Because obviously we all know your dad, Kenny, who's, you know, managed in Scottish football and stuff, mate. And, you know, how big an influence was he back then, and was he encouraging?
Oh, he was huge. He was instrumental on probably those early ages that we were speaking about there, from when I started kicking the ball to right up till I left the Arsenal. He was very influential in driving me. He drove me all around the country for football. He drove me on the pitch. He would take me up for sessions, just me and him running around the pitch, and those dark nights of training with him was probably what helped me develop in regards to my mentality and in regards to my ability to try and develop as a young player. So he had it, to be honest.
See regarding Arsenal as well. Sorry. See regarding Arsenal, was there ever a moment you thought you might actually get in the first team or anything like that?
I would say I was absolutely nowhere near the first team. Nowhere near it. I done the last year that I went. Back when I was there, it was under 17s was my first year. Then under 19s, and then there was the reserves. It wasn't like a Premier League 2 or under 23s. It was just reserves. So, in my last season, I done pre-season with the first team, the first 2 weeks of pre-season, and it was an unbelievable experience. Then they flew around the world. I think they went to Austria. Arsenal used to always go to Austria first, and then I think they went to Asia after that. But I did the first 2 weeks with them before they went, and that was brilliant for me to be in around that environment and those players. And even as a young player, after we finished, say I was under 7, after we finished our training, I would just walk over and sit down in the grass and watch the first team train. At that time, they had Henry, Bergkamp, Perez, Tony Adams, and the English spine of their team was still there. I think for my first year, Martin Keown, Lee Dixon, David Seaman, and then obviously Jens Lehmann coming after that. But that whole core was just a brilliant place to go in every morning to training. It was like a dream come true to be in around it. And then even at that, I was at Highbury. So even traveling to the games on the tube and the underground to watch the first team, I just couldn't wait to watch them. They were that good.
Were any of the players, like you mentioned there, like Henry or Lindbergh and stuff like that, were they helpful, the younger boys, or were they kind of reserved?
A couple of them, I became quite. I didn't become close with any of the first team players, but I remember being injured with Ray Parlour, being injured with Martin Keown, and they were brilliant. I remember Martin Keown gave me little bits of advice of when I was sitting beside him in the physio bed, and Ray Parlour, Franny Jeffers, when he came, I became quite close with him off the pitch. But we had a nucleus of youth team players of the Irish lads. One, Stephen Bradley, who's the current manager of Shamrock Rovers. Stephen O'Donnell, Patrick Craig, Graham Barrett. Liam Brady was the head of the academy, so there was a strong Irish connection there. So that we would have been really strong. Sebastian Larsson, Justin Hoyt, we had a good, really talented players that maybe didn't make a career. Cesc Fabregas came in, but Cesc he didn't train with us much at all. He came in from Barcelona, I think, and then he floated in and played reserve games with us and maybe the odd youth team game, but he was predominantly straight to the first team. Even at 16, he was right up with them. But there was really good characters, and they were all really respectful. Patrick Vieira was a massive one. And where we ate upstairs, the first team and the youth setup would have been mingling between each other. So the separation, although we had probably different ends of the building, there was very much a togetherness at the club. And just being in and around, like the coaches that they had, Don Howe, I don't know if you do any background in Don Howe, was a phenomenal coach. He was Bobby Robson's assistant at England, but he was our youth coach. Neil Bamfield, who spent a time at Rangers. Neil Bamfield with maybe Beale, I think.
Right.
He was on his staff, but they were the coaching and the environment was just unbelievable, to be honest.
Brilliant. Since we're talking about Arsenal, mate, before we go into Hibs, do you think Arsenal are going to win the league this year?
I think it's going to come down to goal difference. I think both teams will win out. I think they'll win every game, and I think it'll come down to goal difference. And I think Arsenal's got Burnley at home, have they?
Think so.
And I think City's maybe got Wolves away. I think it'll come down to goal difference. I could be wrong, but obviously Arsenal's playing tonight, the Champions League. But I can't. They've a good enough squad to do both, I would think. But if you had to make me pick, I'd say City will win it.
I would say so.
I reckon City will probably go and win it now as well.
Nah, Arsenal will
With
win it.
Arsenal, you think so? I just think with Arsenal having the distraction of the Champions League, that might be a bit, I think that might make City slight favourites.
He's just saying Arsenal because Arteta. No other reason. I mean,
No, I've said Arsenal will win the regular season.
I can't wait.
But
It's not easy, that one.
so you end up moving on from Arsenal, mate. You going to Hibs? How did that move come about then?
So I was at Arsenal for 3 years, I think. I had 1 year left in my contract, and I remember, as I said, when I was in the reserves in my last year, there was people like Sylvain Wiltord, Canu, Ray Parler, Franny Jeffers, Jeremy Elliott-Adair. There was just like David Bentley. It was really difficult for me to get on the substitutes bench for the reserves. It was ridiculous how much talent they had. They had players, Jermaine Pennant, Jerome Thomas. They had so many talented players. So it was best. It was the right time for me to move on. And I think I was just turning 19. It was on my 19th birthday, and I think I got a call from someone about going up to Scotland, and the agent says to me, "Look, Hibs and Hearts want you to go in and train." And I remember a Northern Irish player who I was really friendly with, Sammy Morrow, was currently at Hibs at the time. And obviously I'd known Tony Mowbray was there, and I'd done a little bit of research, but I decided to go and train with Hibs and ended up training with a week. It was probably like more of a trial, to be honest. And then I think Tony Mowbray offered me a contract after like a week's trial, and then that was me in the door.
It's what were your most favourite memories about your time at Easter Road?
I think my first season, as I said, I hadn't played any men's football at all. And in my first season up there, I think I ended up making like 50 appearances in my very first season. So I loved that first year when Mowbray was there. I think it's well documented, the squad we had. I was going into a changing room where there were so many players my age. I had so much in common with all the young players. We used to train together, eat together, go out together. And it was just a brilliant place to go to work every day. As you said, Scott Brown, all the names, Sammy Morrow, Derek Riordan, Gary O'Connor, Stephen Whittaker. David Murphy came in. There was a brilliant. They were all similar players of my age group, so it was just a great place to be around. And obviously we started winning games. Mowbray played a brilliant brand of football, and I would say my early years was probably the best in regards to enjoyment. Obviously, there was maybe years where I did better and maybe got more goals in certain aspects. I think obviously finishing third in that season was big. Playing in Europe for Hibs was good. I enjoyed it. We won the cup with John Collins. I remember I tore my thigh in the semi-final of the cup against St Johnstone. I think it was at Tynecastle. I missed out on the final, but it was still good to be part of that cup winning side as well.
You mentioned that team with yourself and all the other guys you mentioned and stuff. What do you think was missing to just go and quite win that league? Because on paper, mate, that's one of the best, squads that you've seen in Scottish football. Even up to this day, all the names you mentioned and yourself. I mean, what do you think was the kind of missing part there? Do you think it was just Celtic Rangers just spent too much money, sort of thing?
We were too young. I think we were too naive. We were too young. And I think even in my first goal for Hibs might have been at Dundee. I think we drew 4-4 with Dundee at home. And we were very much gung ho. We had very, very little experience. The experience we had was really good. We had Gary Smith at the back. We had Stephen Glass, who was a great professional. Gary Caldwell was maybe captain at the time. And he was, I think Gary Caldwell was maybe 22, 23. I think we were just too young, too naive. We were coming up against, I think it was Martin O'Neill's Celtic with Sutton and Hartson, and they were Neil Lennon. They were great pros, great players, and they had just that experience on us. And obviously Rangers were so strong at that time as well. They had obviously Barry Ferguson, Fernando Rickson, Dado Perso. I remember playing against Perso. He was a brilliant player. Rangers were, so I think the Old Firm were what they were, and we done well to finish third. I think in our Mowbray's first season, and then when Mowbray left, it just deteriorated. To be honest, that's when the players left little by little. Then the squad got weaker.
I was going to say, you mentioned characters in the Arsenal changing room, but there's a few characters in that Hibs changing room. You mentioned a few of them: Gary O'Connor and Derek Riordan. Was that just full of carry on? But as soon as they were on the pitch, it was this time.
No, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. As I said, like, we had so much fun. Ivan Sproul came in as well, who was a big mate of mine as well, and we would just, as you said, we were very, very close off the pitch, and I think that helped. And I think we enjoyed each other's company, but we enjoyed playing football. And I think Mowbray was key in that. Mowbray gave us the freedom on the pitch. He knew when to be strong and when to give us a little bit of leniency off the pitch. And I think that was probably key, the manager that we had. And again, he wasn't scared to play young players, Tony Mowbray. And I think there was brilliant young players at Hibs before we came in. Grant Brebner was captain. There was maybe Tam McManus, and there was a different batch that Mowbray seemed to shift out and prefer the young players. Ian Murray, when I arrived, was injured with his knee. He was out long term, but then when Ned came back, he helped us as well. A wee bit more experience, but no, it was just games back. We had two fullbacks, was Murphy and Whittaker, and they were brilliant attacking fullbacks. And obviously Scott Brown's was, I think people forget how good Scott Brown was at Hibs because of the way he possibly played at Celtic. I think he was a phenomenal player at Hibs with his running power, his talent, his aggression on and off the pitch, like on and off the ball, sorry. So I think the freedom to go and play, and I think Mowbray was the one that was key in all that.
Definitely. An amazing team, man. But you decided after a wee while, mate, to have a change and go to Doncaster. How did that come about? Was that something that you wanted to do, just kind of move on after Mowbray had left and stuff?
As I said, Mowbray came in and John Collins came in, and then I think Mixu Patalainen was after John Collins. And to be honest, John Collins's time wasn't, although the cup was won, the squad was really weak by the time Mixu had arrived, and Mixu had a big job on his hands to try and rebuild. And as you said, I was one of the last ones of that group to possibly move on, and the opportunity to play in the English Championship was probably the right timing for me to move on. I really didn't want to leave Hibs. My heart was torn, to be honest, but I think it was the right time for a fresh start, and Doncaster offered me that. And again, Doncaster was a really good club with good players, and they were batting above their league every year in that championship. They were obviously finishing around mid-table at times in a really, really strong league. So it was very desirable to go and play in the English Championship, to be honest.
Did you notice big differences in like style of play or even the caliber of player when you went down to the Championship?
Yeah, the football was different. It was really different. I think there was more aggression. There was more physicality in the Championship. There was more running. There was more fitness. Teams were very aggressive, but we were playing against really big clubs. We had Newcastle, Burnley, Watford, Notts Forest, Palace. They were all Norwich, Ipswich. We had really strong. They were really strong teams. Every week there was obviously a lot more travelling in that English league. I think a lot of the English players that come up to Scotland, they love the fact that there's very little travelling, but it's just a different league. It's a different culture down there, and it was good for me. I enjoyed it, and it was just, as you said, you'd be away to Notts Forest one week, and then you would go and play away to Wolves, and it was just every game was tough. Every game was a real big challenge, but it was really, really good.
After that period, mate, you came back up the road. I was going to ask how that move came about, but you know, your old man was the manager of Kilmarnock at that point, so was that a no-brainer to come back up there?
Well, I felt a bit bad because Sean O'Driscoll was really good coach at Doncaster at the time, and it was pre-season, and I'd wanted to get back up to Scotland, but I felt bad because Doncaster were a bit light in numbers at that stage, but he done well to let me go. Initially, I went on loan from the summer to January to Killie, and then it went so well, and I was really desperate to extend my loan to the end of the season, but my Doncaster contract was running out, and it became a little bit complicated because the manager, Sean O'Driscoll, had left, and Dean Saunders came in, and he was ringing me to come back down, and I didn't want to go down. I wanted to stay at Kilmarnock. We had just got to the League Cup final, and obviously we were playing. That Kilmarnock team was fantastic football. We played brilliant football, and I enjoyed being part of that team. So I eventually got. I think I signed for Kilmarnock to the end of the season. It was maybe on a 6-month deal or something, but yeah, my dad had a bit of an influence on that.
You touched upon it a wee bit, winning the League Cup with Kilmarnock. How does that rank in your career milestones?
I loved it. It was right up there in regards to, sometimes you get real big highs on a football pitch, and obviously that journey was massive because we played Ayr in the semi-final, and it was 0-0. Obviously, Ayr being in the league below, but I don't think people maybe outside of the Kilmarnock Ayr bubble realise that is a massive rivalry, and it was 0-0. We went to extra time, the League Cup semi-final, and we were battered, and we just could not score. We could not score, and then I managed to score in extra time. We went to the final. So going into the final, it was a really weird feeling. We were playing against a brilliant Celtic team. Going into that final, they had 27 games. They had won 24 and drawn 3. So they hadn't been beaten in 28 games, and we were absolutely convinced we were definitely beating them. It was a really strange mindset where we just knew we were going to beat them, and nobody even probably gave us a hope from outside the building or outside our changing room. But my dad done so much homework, and we knew every time it went to Mulgrew's left foot at left centre back, we were drilled for weeks and weeks on the preparation, the analysis, and we done a great job on them. as you said, they had Brown, Wanyama midfield. Gary Hooper, Mohamed Suzuko, our centre back, played Gary Hooper clean through after about 25 seconds, and Cammy Bell just made a brilliant save. And then we started to grow, and we used Hampden. We were a team that passed the ball, and I remember we were playing it around Celtic, and they were pressing us, and they were getting frustrated, and we just knew, it just felt like we were always going to beat them, and it's crazy to say that, but that was our mindset, and I think our mentality, and we were a good side, helped us overcome that.
That's really interesting to hear that, because, you know, when you look at games like that, you think to yourself, right, well, you know, Kamala did really well to win the match and win the cup and stuff, but it must have been a case of get into it, you know, expecting, you know, hoping to win, but expecting maybe the opposite to happen. But as the game goes on, you grow in confidence, and then you think, you know, and then, you know, the big man scores a goal at the end and stuff, and it just kind of goes like that. But to actually think that you believed before the match that you were convinced you were going to win, that's really fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's because we had done so well against the Old Firm that throughout the league. I think we beat Celtic and we beat Rangers twice. We beat Rangers at Ibrox, and I think with my dad's mentality, with the way that Kilmarnock team played, every time we played Old Firm, we just attacked them, we just pressed them, we just tried to beat them by playing football. And I think every other team of that type just sat in and just hoped for the best and hoped and took their beating. And I think that was probably what maybe stood us in good stead. When we got the ball, we wanted to keep the ball, and we attacked the Old Firm. And I think that gave us the confidence probably that maybe we could beat them.
I remember you at that time, and I mean, this is the biggest compliment, but you were the biggest pain in the arse. Because I hated when it was Kilmarnock home or away, because like you said, you just went for it. You weren't, it had no fear type of thing. Didn't matter who you were for.
There was always big goals in our games. I think we got beat by Inverness 6-3 at home. As I said, there was always entertaining games, and I think that was the mentality of the squad. But we had good players too, and we probably didn't get the credit a lot of the players that they possibly deserved. But it was a really enjoyable team to play, and we passed the ball. We got, as I said, I played an attacking midfielder, and that was probably, I would say, that was my best season in Scottish football in regards to stats, in regards to performances. I think I got 15 goals that season. I was in the up for Player of the Year in Scotland that year, and I think that was possibly my best year if I had to pick one out of the most enjoyable year of playing football, to be honest.
Excellent, mate. In 2012, I'm sure a dream of yours came true, mate. You signed for Rangers. Obviously a big deal to yourself and your family, I'm sure, but how difficult a period was that to go in at that point, though? Did that kind of damper things in any way for you, or was it still just an absolute dream?
No, I think I was caught between when I signed for Rangers. I was in Germany. I was actually in Germany about to sign for a German club, and there's a long story about that. But anyway, I eventually signed for Rangers. But at the time when I signed for Rangers, when Ali McCoy rings you to sign for Rangers, it was too hard to say no from upbringing and from the affection I had for Rangers, obviously as a young player. But when I spoke to Ali McCoy initially, we didn't know what league we're in, and Ali initially said to me that he expected us to go into the Championship, the English Championship. But I didn't. I think it just maybe with the time, and maybe the other lads that signed around the same window, I think it was just me that didn't have a clue what league he was signing into. So I just signed anyway. It didn't really matter to me. I was signing anyway, but it was a weird situation where I was signing for a club and I didn't know what league it was in. So then they made the announcement, I think, after I had signed.
How intense was the pressure compared to like your Kilmarnocks and your Hibs?
It was 10 times fold. It wasn't, as I said, at Kilmarnock we had loads of freedom to go and play and express yourself, and the pressure of losing a game at Rangers was just, when you lost a game at Rangers, I remember that walk from the car park on the Monday morning when you turned back up for training, the walk from the car to the training ground, it felt like there was a death. It felt like it felt so bad. The atmosphere was so bad, and it hurt so much to so many people to lose a game at the weekend. And I think that becomes of the mentality of being at a big club, and that's what it means. Rangers don't lose any matches, they don't draw matches, they win every match. And if they don't win every match, it's not acceptable. And I think that's the standards that people in that building set, and I think it's still carried on to this day.
Did you enjoy your time overall there, though?
I loved it. Obviously, it was a great experience for me. In my first year, I enjoyed it to a certain extent. It was tough. The hardest bit for me was when I got my knee injury against Annan Athletic at Ibrox, and then I was out for a long time. And I'll be honest, it took me a long time to get over that injury. But overall, I just see it as a privilege to have played once for Rangers, and I said I had some brilliant highs at the club in regards to certain games, and obviously scoring a hat trick at Ibrox, and when we were in the cups, we beat Motherwell at home, and I remembered certain instances where I really enjoyed it, and I have nothing really bad to say. There was really dark times in regards to the board kept changing, the chief executive kept changing, the managers kept changing. It was a tough time to be there. There was so much turmoil off the pitch, but I don't let that give me any bad memories of the club. I always think I enjoyed my time there, and it was a real privilege and honour to be there.
I've got a quick question, mate, for Scott Bradley. Scott's a Scottish journalist, big Rangers fan, and he's asked me to ask you, what was it like when McCoist tendered his resignation? What was it like at that point?
Yeah, I think it was really strange, because I think we were on the bus on the way to Queen of the South away. I think we had a league game against Queen of the South, and it was on the pages of the back pages that the manager had resigned, and we weren't sure. So when we got on the team bus at Murray Park to go to Queen of the South, the manager wasn't on the bus, but he met us at the hotel, and then I think he maybe resigned the next day. So there was a lot of talk about it, and I think it was a difficult situation for him. I think no Rangers manager, obviously, probably since Ali had the obstacles that he had to overcome. And again, we were probably the last ones to know, to be honest. There were certain meetings where we were part of, but we hadn't a clue what was going on. And the manager, Ali McCoy's, done well, probably protecting us from that turmoil, because he knew more than us. But obviously the focus was always on the pitch, and I think that was a difficult, frustrating part for him, was the off-field stuff that was going on. And when he resigned, as you said, it was then, I think Kenny McDowell was put in charge for a while, and then at that time Mike Ashley had sent 5 Newcastle players up to play for us, and Kenny was temporary manager at the time, and I don't think Kenny knew the players were coming up, and there was just so much turmoil that some things maybe will come out eventually, but I don't know if everyone knows the ins and outs of how bad that time was at the club.
I'm sorry, I've just took a pure mind blank there. You also played for your country and scored for your country. How did that feel?
It was unbelievable. I said that I count that as probably the biggest honour any player can do, is play for their country. And I actually made my debut against Ronaldo's Portugal at Windsor Park. And I actually, obviously, when we were at Hibs, we played against Barcelona, that Barcelona team at Murrayfield. So I always I'm trying to tell my son now. My son's 8, and I'm trying to tell him I played against Messi and Ronaldo, but he still doesn't believe me. So, but no, that to play for my country was unbelievable. And as you said, there was no better feeling, and we had a really good group and a good bunch of lads that I came through with from the lower ages the whole way up. And no, there's no greater honour, I don't think, in football.
Talking to one of those lads that you played with, mate, Warren Feeney, who we've previously had on the show, really nice guy. He's asked me to ask him about the time he was driving me and Gareth McCauley to KFC in his brother-in-law's van on international duty.
Yeah, that was a brilliant van. So when we were at Hilton in Antrim, and I don't think the food was overly great at the time, and my brother-in-law Shay has a car business, and he dropped in a van for us to go to the shop or to get about. So we had international players. We had Precious Cargo flew into the back of a wee van, and I remember us going to KFC to get food, and them Fino. It was me and Steve Davis in the front, and Fino and Gareth McCauley rolling around in the back. So there was a bit of grumbling and commotion in the back, but it was great fun. That was just the crack we had in those days. Was just, I don't think you could get away with those sorts of things nowadays. But
Nah, I don't think so.
No, that I'll remember that for a long time, and I'm not surprised Fino brought it up. It was his idea to go for a KFC, so that tells you a lot.
Brilliant. I just want to touch on something just for a wee second, mate. A sensitive subject, I'm sure it is, but you know, I'm sure some people would want to hear about this. 2006, you had an operation in your eye, which is obviously a massive deal for anybody to go through, but particularly, I'd imagine, a footballer. How did you cope afterwards with that? Did that change your game in any way, or you know, was it just one of those things and you just got on with things? How was it?
Well, I don't think it changed my game dramatically. So obviously, the incident happened when I was 9 years old. So I lost probably the majority of the vision in that eye at that time. So from ages 9 to 12, I think I had 5 operations on the eye to try and regain the sight and to try and solve the issue. So basically, when I was growing up, I didn't have the vision. I would say I had maybe less than 5% any vision in the eye from that age on. I could see shadows from certain parts. I couldn't see out of the eye at all. It was only when I went to Hibs, as you said, I think I turned 19. It was maybe when I turned 20 years old. As I was going into training in the morning, the bright lights and the pressure began to build in the eye. And it then was full of blood, and it just came to a point where the doctor said that it would be best to have it removed. So that was then I went from being able to see certain bits to then being able to see obviously absolutely nothing. So the change wasn't overly dramatic because I've had to adjust to it as a young player growing up, and then obviously take it into my adult life. But no, it was a difficult hurdle, and I think it was more the mentality of earning a professional career out of the game with only having eyesight in one eye was my. I would put that down to the mentality and the desire I had to probably the obsession I had with the game. I love football so much that I wasn't going to let anything stop me, and I think that was probably more than anything else in regards to the what if or what could have been. I would have loved to have been able to play with both eyes because I played in midfield and I played an attacking player where vision was actually a really strong part of my game. I used that head movement to see the awareness of what was around me and certain issues. And I think the difficulties of the higher you go, the harder it becomes. And I think obviously to play at the level I did, I'm really, really proud of what I did and had to overcome. And I would put it all down to a mentality and a mental toughness to battle through that. It was, I think, when I was told at Hibs that I had to lose the eye, I did then consider that maybe I won't be able to play again, or they gave me Edgar Davids was at Spurs at the time, I remember, and the Hibs physio Colin would have got in touch with Spurs, and they says to me about wearing glasses as a player. They were wanting me to wear the same glasses as Davids for protection more than anything. But I think that was the main issue growing up. I would say when I did at 12 years old, the doctors told me not to play football. They says that it would be too high risk. It would be very dangerous if something happened to your good eye, and that the doctor's words I'll never forget was, you should maybe take up non-contact sports or maybe board games, and you would be more safer for you. So that was the journey and the challenge that I had to overcome from a young age.
Well, it's a personal one for me, this, mate. It's a personal one for me, this, because I'm glad you didn't listen to that doctor or anything like that, because I'm blind in one eye, and you know, I was born like that though, and I always remember my mum telling me that the doctor had said to my mum, he'll never be a policeman or he'll never be a fireman or anything like that. So, you know, because I know how hard it can be and stuff like that. So, but you know, I don't think you get enough credit, mate, for, you know, going through that and then still being able to play at the highest level and stuff, because, you know, you're not just doing it for yourself, mate. You're an inspiration to others. There'll be some young guys that hopefully there'll be a young guy or girl out there watching this right now who's, you know, went through something similar, and you know, your prime example that you don't give up. You've got to follow your dreams and go for things and that, mate. So I just want to say thank you for no giving up, man. Well done.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate
it. Right, just a couple of minutes left, mate. I just got a couple of fun questions before we let you go. I know you're pushed for time here, but I don't know if you've done this, mate, right? Every person we've had on, we've kind of asked them this question. Personally, if I was a football player, I'd be on transfer market knowing all my stats and stuff. But a lot of the guys haven't actually done that.
Some of them are wrong, by the way.
Oh, do you know the answer to these then?
No, I don't. Right. But I don't. I think I've lost a couple of goals somewhere.
Right, it's not your goals, right? It's actually can you name the top 3 players you played alongside the most in your career?
Oh wow, the most. Paul Heffernan.
Paul Heffernan.
He's not
there, no.
I played with Paul Heffernan at Doncaster for a lot, and I played with him at Killy for a lot.
Well, the person says here, the person says 112.
Don't tell me yet.
No, I'm not telling you, but you played 112 matches with him.
With one person?
Yeah.
Nobody ever gets it.
Is it a Hibs player?
No.
Must be someone at Rangers, maybe. Lee Wallace.
Yes, mate. He's number 1.
He was a brilliant player. Really underrated player.
Number 2, you played with him 90 times. These next 2 were at Hibs.
Rob Jones. Someone that played at Hibs the same time. Riordan.
No, Riordan and Jones are a wee bit further down the list. I don't know. I'm lost. If it's a Hibs player, the Hibs players came and went so fast. For the second one's a striker.
No, it's not Big Nishi.
Nah. We don't have a brilliant career down in England in the Premier League and stuff.
Stephen Fletcher.
Yep, 90 times with him.
Oh, I didn't know that. Fletcher, great, really good player. What a player Fletch was.
And then the third one, 88 times, and he's a fullback.
Tell me who it is. I'm not going to get it.
Stephen Whittaker.
Stephen Whittaker?
Yeah.
I would have got that. I thought, what's left? Did he not?
Nah, 88 times with him, man. But
so, right. Did you say it was first again?
Lee Wallace. By quite a distance. 112 games.
I still think Lee Wallace doesn't get the credit he deserves enough, to be honest.
Some player, man. He was some player.
He was a brilliant player.
Right, last question, mate, before we let you go. 5-a-side team of players you played alongside. You're the manager. Oh. Who's your 5 players?
This is not easy. And the best goalkeeper I played with was at Doncaster was Neil Sullivan. He was brilliant. Oh, he was brilliant. And when Sully was at Doncaster, I think he was maybe 41. 40. He'd obviously had good careers at Spurs and Chelsea.
Look at Craig Gordon, man. Goalkeepers can go on forever, can't they?
I know. They don't do much, but The other one, defender Johnny Evans. Johnny's probably the best player I played with at international level. Unbelievable player. Again, probably doesn't get the credit he deserves, but he was a elite Champions League player. Left foot, right foot. What a player. Defensively, he was just, his time and his reading of the game was unbelievable. Midfield, Stephen Davis, without doubt. You know him inside out, but he was a fantastic player. What a player. Steve could do everything, but it's not easy. The rest, what? 5 players? Many's that? 3?
3, yeah.
I'm allowed 2 more.
2 more.
Rangers. There was a lot of good players at Rangers. I can't see. I'm not including the likes of Fabregas or anyone at Arsenal because they weren't senior appearances. I don't think.
That's fair.
I don't think they count. It has to be senior. Again, it's very difficult. There's some brilliant players, like we've mentioned a few of them. Scott Brown, I would say Brownie has to be in there in the conversation because of the player he was at Hibs. He was unbelievable. Guillaume Bouzoulan was unbelievable player at Hibs as well. The striker I'm going to go for is Paul Heffernan. Paul Heffernan and me had a brilliant relationship, especially at Kilmarnock. He was a brilliant goal scorer. Again, there were some brilliant strikers I played with, but he has to be the striker. We're needing some flair, are we? We're
out of players now, but that's you. You've named them all.
Is that me?
That's you. Neil Sullivan, Evans, Davis, Brown, and Heffernan.
Aye, that's us. That's not bad.
That's all right, by the way. That's decent, man.
That's all right.
That's not bad.
Are you your plan still to managing? Have you still got your eye on that?
I to be honest, what I enjoy the most is coaching. I love coaching. I love being on the grass, whether it's young players, whether it's adults. I really enjoy it. So again, wherever that takes me, we'll see. I've done all my badges. As I said, I've got experience now over here coaching in the Premier League. So I whatever I do, I'll definitely be involved in the game of some way. Because I'm still obsessed by it. I still love it, and I think coaching is probably the next best thing to playing. Nothing replaces playing, but I do really love the coaching.
Well, good luck, mate. Everything going forward and that, and thanks very much for your time, Dean. It's been a total pleasure talking to you, pal.
He's got something out of that.
Definitely, mate. It's a real pleasure, man. Thank you very much, pal.
Yeah.
No problem. I've got to shoot, so don't think I'm running off on you.
No bother about it, baby. See you later. Bye bye.
Good luck, lads. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.